we are back with episode 3 and talking about abortion. I'm just going to start by throwing out a few facts to get the conversation rolling. Fact number 1 is as much as 50% of all pregnancies end up in the fetus just like committing suicide due to, well, it's chemical. It's looking for an optimal chemical environment, and if it doesn't find it in the first 2 weeks of like dividing, it'll just abort itself before it even becomes visible to the naked eye. Oh, and also I should mention that with enough technology, a lot of these can be made to live if you monitored them super carefully, and as soon as you implanted like chemical regulators into the womb, you could save a lot of these. So yeah, any sort of anti-abortion argument would have to in some sense conclude that just having a baby, which every woman that has ever had a baby is at least 50% likely to have murdered someone, because she could have not had this naturally made abortion. One thing I should mention is that every argument that I've ever seen that is anti-abortion has been religious, except for one. This is Christopher Hitchens' argument against abortion. I wasn't quite able to get his point. It didn't make much sense to me. I think that was like Hitchens' weakest argument of all time.
Except for pro-Iraq war.
Not counting pro-Iraq war. One thing I should mention is that there's one level at which I think everybody would agree that abortion is good and or not bad is before the fetus develops a nervous system. I think it's unambiguous that abortion is not wrong because it has less capacity to feel pain than a fruit fly.
I would say that the entire conversation of pro or against abortion really has no meaningful place in any type of political structure, in any type of religious structure. At the end of the day, if you define life as there is a fetus, therefore there is life, or you define life as there is birth, therefore there is life, at the end of the day, you still cannot make that decision consciously for billions of people. No one has the ability to go through all of the possible permutations of circumstances and say globally abortion is wrong or abortion is right. It needs to be on a case-per-case basis, decided by solely the person doing the abortion, so the woman pregnant, potentially her partner. That would be my position.
Yeah, but that's sort of inconsistent. You're saying you can't make any sort of global stance on abortion, and yet you also stated that it should be up to the woman if she wants to have an abortion. But that's a global stance. You're saying abortion should be an option for people who would like it. Many people would say that abortion should not be an option at all. So you are, in fact, making a global stance by saying it is up to the individual.
Allow me then to rephrase a little bit what I said. Maybe I didn't make myself very clear on this. No one should have the right to decide outside of the person doing the abortion and potentially the partner. I'm 100% for the ability to choose. I'm 100% against this being a debate on any kind of level. That's what I tried to say. If it didn't come out clear enough, then please, forgive me.
There's not much to really disagree with there, but perhaps a male perspective might be seen by a woman as being somewhat less relevant than a woman's opinion on it.
Good point.
Regardless, though, I mean, I don't think that you can make an argument as a woman against the ability to choose abortion that doesn't hinge on religious reasons or religious convictions. And for that reason alone, because it can't be made, the decision can't be made on the basis of anything other than the hearsay that became tradition and became entrenched in culture. It's not like an argument you could make logically. It's something you'd have to make emotionally. And I think arguing emotionally in that way is really results in poor decision making.
I was just quickly trying to look up Christopher Hitchens' position on abortion, since he is pro-life, and he first of all says, I'm going to paraphrase here, that the term unborn child is a real one, and he uses it, and he means it to say that the unborn child is a candidate for humanity. He goes on to say that you can't, this is in quotes, you can't say rights, sorry. You can't say the rights question doesn't come up. But at the same time, he says, I don't think a woman should be forced to choose or even can be. So as for his position, I mean, he's for the woman's right to choose, yet he is against the abortion of a fetus. I don't know. Am I understanding that correctly?
It doesn't really make any sense.
It's kind of funny that the wording he uses is forced to choose, which almost seems like an oxymoron. Like, how can you, if you have a choice, and are you really being forced?
The thing I think is, this is Hitchens at his worst. I mean, I got to give the guy credit where credit is due, but I think his anti-abortion argument is abysmal, and he just never. I think he's almost doing it like to prove a point. Oh, look at me, I'm an atheist and I'm anti-abortion, almost like sort of stake some intellectual ground or something.
What intellectual ground can be gained by a self-conflicting argument? I am against abortions, but pro-choice. Therefore, I've just said something that makes no sense.
Hitcher is a master of that. No, he's pretty cool, actually.
It's an interesting debate, but at the same time, and I'm surprised that no one has even chosen to debate him on it, actually.
An argument that I've heard before regarding abortion is that, well, would you like to have been aborted? No, but neither do I want to get mugged or shot. Unfortunately, however, these things rarely come with consent. Therefore, I think that any kind of emotional argument that gets drawn from, well, what would you feel like if this happened to you, really is irrelevant, because ultimately abortions don't happen to adults. They happen to fetuses, and a fetus does not really have the ability to make its position on the topic very clear.
One thing that could approach a pro-abortion, an anti-abortion argument would be trying to blur the line between a fetus and then a late-term fetus and then a newborn. Trying to make the argument, well, if it's okay to abort a late-term fetus, then it's okay to abort an early-born baby, because there's really no fundamental difference.
One should really be called kill, and the other should be called not allowed to be born, and I guess that's where the difference lies.
It's somewhat arbitrary, though, because you're defining it in terms of their physical location relative to the sac around them. You're trying to make a dichotomy out of a spectrum by saying that. I'm not advocating any specific point in the spectrum to be picked as the now the fetus is alive and is wrong to abort. In fact, I would argue the extreme position that life is in fact valueless. It has zero value, because if you attribute any non-zero value to life, and you take into account the fact that with genetic technology, with bioengineering, you could probably turn any given skin cell, you could take its DNA, turn it into another person. You're essentially constantly like shedding skin cells and stuff, and each one could be a potential human.